They left you when it got ugly, didn't they? When your mask slipped, when the weakness showed, when the world cracked its teeth on your back. They vanished. Friends, lovers, even family. People you would have burned for went cold when your fire died. You thought they cared. You thought life was fair. But life doesn't love the loyal. It respects the useful. Let that sink in. Life respects the useful. They weren't wrong to leave, and that's what should burn most. Because this world is built on utility, not sympathy. And once you fall, once you bleed, the world doesn't ask if you're okay. It steps over you and finds someone stronger. But here's the Machiavellian truth. That fall you took was the best thing that ever happened to you. Because now you see it, the lies, the illusions, the fantasy of fairness, dead. And now you can rise without the weight of pretending. When everything collapses, that's when the gods shut up and men are made. You don't build power when you're comfortable. You build it when your name is ash in people's mouths and your hands shake with rage. That moment where no one comes to save you, that's the forge. That's where kings are born. You either stay broken or you decide right here, right now, that this pain is your birthplace. The world thought it ended you, but it didn't. It opened the cage. And from now on, you move differently. Not to be liked, not to be accepted, but to become untouchable. You become the man who thrives in silence, who plots in the shadows, who builds muscle where others seek mercy. No more asking for peace. You create it through dominance. This is war now, and your enemy is every version of you that begged to be loved by cowards. That man, let him die. The power of controlled ruthlessness. You want to survive when life falls apart? Good. Then burn the idea that kindness is power. It's not when it's unconditional, not when it's blind. Ruthlessness controlled, precise. Ruthlessness is what gets you out of the dirt. Most men think being a good person means being soft, but softness is a luxury for the protected. If you're bleeding, alone, and stripped of peace, you don't need softness. You need edge. You need to make the decision right now. I will be useful. I will be feared before I am liked. When you walk into a room, people should feel it, not because you're loud, but because you carry silence like a blade. Ruthless men don't bark. They calculate. They scan. They watch weakness the way predators watch limping prey. The man you were before wanted acceptance. The man you must become now wants leverage. There's a difference. You don't stab people. You outthink them. You don't scream back. You remember everything. You let their insults season your strategy. Cold memory is more dangerous than hot revenge. Controlled ruthlessness isn't chaos. It's discipline, with a dark edge. This isn't about hurting people, it's about no longer letting people hurt you. That's the shift. The moment you start setting boundaries without explanation, the world labels you cruel, good. Let them call you cold. Let them misunderstand you. The tiger doesn't explain its stripes. You do not owe softness to a world that tried to destroy you. You owe it a response, and that response is resilience wrapped in iron. You don't chase closure. You create consequences. From this point forward, move like a weapon with a purpose. No emotion unless it's strategic. No reaction unless it's useful. And when they wonder what changed, let them choke on your silence. Comment, my silence is strategy. If you're done playing nice in a world built for wolves, the death of the old self. He has to die. The man you were before the collapse. The pleaser, the dreamer, the believer in second chances. He can't come with you. You don't rebuild by carrying corpses. That old self, the one who said yes when he meant no, who tolerated betrayal, who gave people pieces of himself just to feel seen. He was soft clay, and soft clay gets shaped by everyone else's hands. Let him rot. Say goodbye. He served his purpose. He showed you who not to be. You cannot become dangerous if you're still addicted to being loved. The old you begged for peace. The new you understands it must be earned through dominance over your own chaos. Burn the identity that was built on compromise. Your real self doesn't come alive when life is comfortable. It comes alive when your back is against the wall, when no one claps for you, when you're forced to create meaning out of silence. That's the graveyard where most men die. But it's also the soil where the rare few are reborn as something more. This rebirth isn't a glow-up, it's a warpath. You become someone who doesn't ask for closure, who doesn't explain himself, who doesn't try to fix what God himself destroyed. Your pain is the fire, and your new self is the weapon forged in it. Understand this. You're not healing. You're evolving. You're not the victim. You're the aftermath. Grieve who you were, but do it once and then make a vow. The next version of you doesn't chase, doesn't flinch, and doesn't apologize for becoming untouchable. They'll say, "You've changed. Good." That's the point. A man who stays the same after hell has no spine. Change is the tax of survival. Evolution is the price of power. Kill the old self. Bury him deep. Comment. My past is a corpse. I don't mourn it. Building inner fortresses. Mental war rooms. Your mind is a battlefield. Most men walk through it barefoot, blindfolded, hoping the world will be kind, and then they wonder why they bleed. Not you, not anymore. You're here to build an inner fortress, a mental war room where doubt gets executed and fear gets dissected. Everything external, money, status, love, is rented. But the one thing you can own outright is your mind. So fortify it, brick by brick, thought by thought. Train it like a weapon. Guard it like a kingdom. When you wake up, you strategize. When you speak, you calculate. When you feel, you pause and interrogate the emotion before giving it power. That's what most men never do. They react, they flinch, they crumble. You observe. The war room in your mind must become your command center. Inside it, you rehearse betrayal before it arrives. You study the weaknesses of those who claim loyalty. You predict exits. You plan your rebuilds before anything breaks. This isn't paranoia, it's preparation. And preparation is power. To the average man, silence is emptiness. To you, silence is planning. You're not running from your pain anymore. You're studying it, cataloging it, turning every scar into data. You journal like a general tracking battlefield movements. You don't meditate to find peace. You meditate to sharpen your psychological edge. Every habit you build now feeds the war machine inside you. Cold showers, daily movement, mental stillness, strategic isolation. That's not wellness. That's weaponization. And when the world tries to invade through chaos, through gossip, through weakness, it finds your walls high, your gates closed, your mind too disciplined to penetrate. You've become the kind of man who needs no reassurance, no audience, no applause, only result comment. My mind is my fortress. No one enters without permission. If you're ready to own the only territory that can't be taken, the strategy of silence. Silence is not weakness. It's the most underrated form of warfare. Loud men crave validation. Silent men study the battlefield. Most people speak just to hear themselves echo, to prove they exist. But when life collapses around you, when your back hits the dirt, you don't need noise, you need clarity, and silence is where clarity lives. You stop explaining yourself, you stop announcing your next move. You let them wonder, guess, spiral. Mystery isn't a mood, it's a weapon. You want to dominate your environment. Say less. Hold your cards so close they forget you're even playing the game. The Machiavellian mind doesn't perform, it observes. Silence gives you time to read the room, identify the weak, track the manipulators, and move undetected. Every time you withhold your thoughts, your reactions, your feelings, you gain power. Because while they reveal themselves trying to provoke you, you say nothing and become unpredictable. Do not post your pain. Do not overshare your struggle. Let them think you've vanished. Then come back with results so undeniable, they stutter. Words are cheap. Moves are final. You don't chase closure anymore. You leave it unanswered. Silence becomes your armor, your branding, your edge. Because here's the secret. When you stop giving people access to your emotions, they lose control of your direction. Silence is also control over yourself. Not reacting when disrespected, not defending your name to people who don't matter, not answering just because someone expects you to. You sit with discomfort. You outlast noise, and you smile. Not because you're passive, but because you already know how the game ends. They speak to be seen. You move in silence to conquer. Comment: silence is my strategy. Mystery is my advantage. If you're done being readable, predictable, and weak, cold empathy and weaponized understanding. Empathy is not weakness if you control it. Real power comes from understanding people deeply, without being pulled into their emotional current. You don't drown in their feelings, you study them. Their tone, their fears, their subtle tells. You don't react. You map their minds. That's cold empathy. You feel enough to predict, not enough to be manipulated. Most men either lack empathy entirely or let it consume them. But you walk the blade between awareness and control. You understand people like a hunter understands prey. You want influence. Learn how people justify betrayal to themselves. Learn how they mask their shame in moral language. Learn how they project guilt onto others so they can sleep at night. Then weaponize it, mirror their language, echo their values until they trust you, and when they slip, you'll see it before they do. This isn't cruelty, it's survival. In a world where power comes not from brute force but from unseen leverage, a man who reads people owns the board before the first move is made. Emotions are data. Most people are walking patterns, self-sabotaging loops just begging to be exploited. And the more they talk, the more they reveal. So you listen, you remember, you calculate. You're not here to save anyone. You're here to understand them better than they understand themselves. Cold empathy means smiling while they lie, nodding while they perform, because you already know their truth, and you're already 2 steps ahead. Use their stories to build your own strategy. Use their pain to understand their limits, and when needed, use their language to break through their armor, not to comfort them, but to lead them. Control outcomes or walk away untouched. That's the edge. Feel but don't fall. Comment: I read minds not to heal but to lead. If you're done being emotionally hijacked by the world, the shadow mirror. The shadow mirror using pain as fuel. Everything that broke you left a blueprint. You just weren't trained to read it. Pain isn't the enemy, it's the architect. Every betrayal, every silence, every moment you felt invisible was life showing you what must die and what must be built. Weak men suppress pain. They numb it, avoid it, drown it in distraction. But you're here to weaponize it, to drag it into the light, to stare it down like a mirror and say, good. Now I know where the fire comes from. Because when pain becomes your reflection, it also becomes your power. You don't heal by forgetting, you rise by remembering in detail, with precision and turning every memory into muscle. You use that heartbreak to train when you don't want to. You use that betrayal to stay silent when you could lash out. You use that failure to study, to plot, to evolve with a level of intensity that softness could never produce. Pain carves the outline of who you were and then hands you the blade to cut that man loose. You don't just suffer, you convert. That's the difference between victims and killers in this world. One flinches when it hurts, the other sharpens the blade. Look at the worst thing that ever happened to you and ask yourself, what kind of man would I be if I used it? If I made it my fuel instead of my excuse? If I stopped telling the story for sympathy and started using it for strategy? That's the shadow mirror. You stop seeing pain as a wound and start seeing it as a weapon. Because the truth is, you're not here to recover. You're here to rise with your scars arranged like armor. Every one of them earned, remembered, and used. Comment. My pain doesn't define me. It refines me. If you're done running from the fire and ready to become it, mastering detachment. Mastering detachment, the end of needing. Need is the leash they use to control you. As long as you crave love, validation, approval, or peace, you are not free. You are domesticated, a trained dog waiting for a pat on the head. That ends now. Detachment isn't numbness, it's control. You still feel, you still want, but you do not need. That difference makes you dangerous, because once you stop needing anyone to see you, love you, or understand you, you become ungovernable. And in a collapsing world, only the ungovernable thrive. You want mental strength. Kill the dependency. That includes the quiet hopes that they'll come back, apologize, or finally see your worth. Let that version of you die in silence. The version that waited, explained, and begged to be seen. That man was ruled by need. You're here now to rule yourself. True detachment is not escape. It's arrival into a version of yourself who doesn't chase anything because he already knows what he is. Quiet, focused, self-fed, and self-forged. People manipulate you because you still seek something from them. Remove that hunger, and they lose their grip. Suddenly, you see it all clearly. The guilt traps, the emotional games, the shame strings. You cut every one of them, not with anger, but with indifference. Detachment is not cold-heartedness, it's clarity. Peace is internal, and control is the absence of need. A man who needs nothing cannot be broken. He can lose, but he doesn't beg. He can hurt, but he doesn't flinch. He walks alone, but never drifts. Let them call it heartless. Let them say you've changed. You're not here to be understood. You're here to be unshakable. Comment. I need nothing. That's why I'm free. If you've outgrown the leash of emotional dependence, your enemies are right about you. Emotional dependence. Let them talk. Let them whisper, accuse, mock. Every insult, every betrayal, every half-truth wrapped in venom. Listen, not to defend, but to absorb. Your enemies are right about you, not because they speak truth, but because they reveal the parts of you you've been afraid to admit. You're selfish. Good. Self first is how you stop bleeding for people who wouldn't spit on you if you were on fire. You're cold. Good. Ice doesn't bend, it cuts. You're ruthless. Even better. Ruthless men don't break, they bury. The moment you stop denying the monster they claim you are, you begin to control him. What they see as flaws are the very traits you need to survive. If they call you arrogant, it's because they can't manipulate your self-respect. They call you heartless. It's because you stopped letting guilt leash you. The problem isn't that you're too dark, it's that you were taught to be ashamed of your shadow. But every king has a dungeon. Every general has a graveyard behind his throne. Power demands that you wear the parts of yourself that make sheep uncomfortable. You don't clear your name, you become the name that doesn't need clearing. The stronger you get, the louder the hate becomes, because you remind people of what they'll never be. That's your advantage. Don't explain it. Don't fix it. Let their words forge the armor. You're not the villain in their story. You're the correction. You are the cost they paid for underestimating you. Once you realize that, their opinions become background noise in your symphony of revenge. So when they talk, let them. Their fear builds your myth. Their gossip builds your legend. Use it all. Comment, I wear every insult like armor. If you're done apologizing for being powerful, anticipated betrayal. The law of anticipated betrayal. Loyalty ends where inconvenience begins. Understand this law, and you'll stop being shocked when the ones closest to you switch sides. The moment it cost them something. Betrayal isn't rare. It's predictable. Most men walk through life hoping the people around them won't hurt them. Strategic men walk through life expecting it, planning for it, and turning it into an advantage. Stop being surprised. Start being prepared. The dagger in your back didn't come from nowhere. You simply weren't looking closely enough. Trust slowly. Observe constantly. Rely on no one emotionally. This isn't paranoia, it's power. The betrayal that blindsides you is the one you fail to anticipate. From now on, expect the shift. Read the signs. Watch how they act when your value dips. A loyalty isn't proven in celebration, it's exposed in silence, in scarcity, in struggle, and most won't survive that test. Not because they're evil, but because they're weak, and weakness always folds under pressure. You no longer get angry at betrayal. You get strategic. You use it as proof your instincts were right. Watch how fast people rewrite history to justify their cowardice. Document it. Not for revenge, but for record. A general keeps a log, and you are the general of your life. Now you play long games. You hold long memories. You walk alone, not because you hate people, but because you trust patterns, not promises. Anticipated betrayal is power. It means you don't overinvest, overshare, or give what hasn't been earned. And when they fold, you're already 2 moves ahead. Not broken, not bitter, just colder and smarter. Comment, I expect betrayal, that's why I'm never broken. Be the storm. The final law, be the storm. They told you to weather it, to endure, to hold on. But that's not who you are anymore. You don't stand in the rain hoping it passes. You become the rain, the chaos, the roar, the end of pretending. You don't survive life, you command it. You don't ask for mercy. You become the force mercy begs to avoid. Storms don't explain. They arrive. They shift everything. And when you've rebuilt yourself from ash, betrayal, and silence, you don't return soft. You return inevitable. You are not calm. You are controlled. You are not gentle. You are precise. When the world tries to throw the same pain at you again, it finds no entry point. Because storms aren't afraid of lightning, they are made of it. This is where you step off the edge of who you were and never look back. No more negotiating with weakness. No more internal debates. The time for survival is over. You're not surviving anymore. You're taking ground. You are not a man trying to feel better. You are a force learning to dominate through discipline. From here on, you move like thunder. You speak with consequence. You live like your silence can shatter cities. You're not after healing, you're after control. Control of your mind, your moves, your energy. You are the storm now, unanticipated, undeniable, unstoppable. Let them try to explain you. Let them try to contain you. But never again let them touch you, because you are not what happened to you. You are what rose in response. Not a survivor, not a victim, a walking storm, forged in darkness, wrapped in silence, and driven by law. Comment, I wear the storm as skin.